The call came late at night, jarring me awake. Her voice was trembling, panicked, and almost desperate. I'm in the ER, she stammered. It's nothing serious, but I need you to pay for the bills. My head spun for a moment, disbelief mixing with a flicker of anger. Just hours earlier, she had been out with friends, a casual lie that masked what I now knew. She had been on a date with her lover, and now she expected me to shoulder the consequences of her recklessness. I didn't respond with outrage. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. Instead, I listened, calm, letting her anxiety fill the space while my mind went through the situation step by step. Her words were frantic, pleading, desperate for me to bail her out. For months, she had tested the boundaries of our marriage, flirting, hiding, lying, and manipulating. And now, in a desperate twist of audacity, she was asking me to pay for her mistakes. I hung up and sat in silence, letting the magnitude of her entitlement sink in. The anger bubbled quietly, but what rose stronger was clarity. I realized that if I gave in, I would be teaching her that betrayal has no consequences, that reckless behavior can be patched up with someone else's money and goodwill. That wasn't going to happen. The next day, I calmly called the hospital, not to pay, not to negotiate, but to confirm the charges, the insurance coverage, and the financial responsibility. I noted everything meticulously, every detail, every procedure, every line item. I was preparing, not just to refuse, but to do so strategically. I wanted her to feel the consequences without having to raise my voice. When she returned home, panicked, clutching the medical bills, I met her calmly. She tried to explain, to justify, to plead. I didn't expect this to happen, she said. Please, just help me. I listened quietly, nodding slightly, letting her words hang in the air. Then I placed the envelope she had brought on the counter. You need to handle this yourself, I said calmly. You made your choices. Now you deal with the results. Her panic intensified. She tried guilt, trying to make me feel responsible for her health, for her decisions, for her reckless behavior. She begged, she cried, she even threatened, trying every manipulation she had learned over years of deceit. I remained calm, steady, unshaken. Every time she tried to pull me into chaos, I stayed in control, letting her feel the weight of her own actions. Over the next few days, her frantic attempts to coerce me escalated. She called friends and family, hoping someone would convince me to pay, to step in, to forgive her recklessness. I refused every request, every plea. I documented everything, texts, calls, conversations, to make sure the record was clear. She had acted irresponsibly, and I would not cover it. Watching her panic and struggle was a quiet, almost serene satisfaction. She had believed that she could manipulate me, that she could act recklessly and still rely on me as her safety net. Now she understood that her world had consequences she could not offload onto someone else. She had to face the reality she had ignored for so long, and I had no part in fixing it. The best part of the revenge wasn't seeing her suffer financially. It was watching her realize that her freedom to act recklessly had limits. She panicked at first, trying to charm or manipulate, but eventually she had to step up, take responsibility, and handle the fallout herself. Every moment of frustration, every anxious call, every sleepless night she endured was the natural consequence of her own choices. In the weeks that followed, I made no further gestures. I let her learn, fully and painfully, the cost of her actions. She tried to apologize, to negotiate, to plead one last time, but I stayed firm. The lesson had to land fully. Betrayal, recklessness, and manipulation have consequences, and I would no longer be complicit in covering them. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. My satisfaction was quiet, calm, and deliberate. The revenge wasn't public. It wasn't dramatic. It was simply letting her panic, face reality, and experience the weight of her choices without me stepping in to save her. Eventually, She learned to handle her affairs independently. She faced her mistakes and paid the bills she had demanded I cover. The audacity of expecting me to bail her out vanished into memory, replaced by the bitter understanding that her reckless behavior no longer had a safety net. She had believed she could manipulate me, control me, and avoid responsibility. I had shown her that her actions had limits and that betrayal carries real consequences. The panic she felt, the frustration she endured, and the realization that she couldn't rely on me anymore, that was the revenge. Sometimes the quietest responses are the most powerful. She had tried to draw me into chaos, but I remained calm, composed, and deliberate. Her recklessness bounced back on her, leaving her to navigate the storm she created alone. And in that quiet, methodical way, I reclaimed control over my life, my dignity, and my peace. She called me one last time after the bills were paid, almost incredulous that I hadn't stepped in. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The lesson had been learned. She had tried to make me her rescuer, her savior, and I refused. In the end, the true revenge was letting her face the reality she had chosen for herself, and proving that I would no longer be part of her chaos.